Alright, so we're going to do a little different thing here with this video. I'm going to do some examples on this as practice, but I'm going to leave most of this worksheet for you to try as your own practice before you come to class next time. But I do want to show you kind of a smattering of a few of them on the worksheet to kind of help you get started on this, to kind of show you how these derivatives of inverses work. Alright, so let's take a look at number one. I have a function g, I have an inverse of g, and we're trying to find the slope of the inverse function at 2. So in all of these problems, there are two steps. Step one is you have to find the corresponding point. So to find the corresponding point, we're taking, remember it's not the slope, we're first just finding the point. We want to find g inverse of 2, what that is equal to. Now, how do I find what the inverse is at 2? I'm not going to actually find the inverse function. I'm going to remember that we're going to let g of x equals 2. That the corresponding point uses the original function. We want to know, when does the original function equal to 2? So over here, we have x to the fifth plus 3x minus 2, and I want to know, when is that equal to 2? And again, remember I told you that there was that guess and check strategy, that typically the value you're looking for is something like 0, 1, -1, -2, or 2. So if we kind of examine this, and let's try a couple of things. If I put in a 1, oh look, I got lucky on my first guess. Guess and check. 1 plus 3 minus 2 is 2. So this happens when x equals 1. So what that tells me is that g of 1 is 2, and then g inverse of 2 is 1. Okay? Corresponding points. You got to find the corresponding point, and the corresponding point on the inverse for 2 is 1. So that's going to be our important piece that we're going to have. And now they're asking us to find the slope on the inverse at 2, and that's where we utilize our formula. The slope on the inverse at 2 is the reciprocal of the slope on the original at the corresponding point. So I basically just need to calculate g prime of 1. So g of x is over here. G prime of x, our derivative, 5x to the fourth plus 3. So my g prime of 1 is going to be 8, so the answer is B, 1/8. Okay? So again, the steps that you would follow in these problems is you first need to find the corresponding point. What is the inverse's value when you plug in 2, which is the same as saying solve the original function equal to 2. Use your guess and check strategy over here. Find that you get x equal to 1, and then you're going to use the inverse formula that the slope of the inverse at 2 is the reciprocal of the slope on the original at the corresponding point. And then you can go ahead and do the problem. All right. Let's take a look at, let's see. Let's do number 3. Okay. So I want to find the derivative of the inverse at x equal to 2. Same problem. To find the derivative of the inverse at x equal to 2, I need to find the corresponding point. So I need to figure out what the inverse is when I plug in 2. I'm not going to actually find the inverse function. I am going to remember that to find this, what I basically want to do is take the original function and set it equal to 2 and guess and check my corresponding point. So I'm going to have x to the fifth plus x equal to 2. So what value of x makes x to the fifth plus x equal to 2? Oh, hey, look, there's a pattern here. Add x equal to 1. Very easy to guess and check. If you check -1, 0, I mean, realize, okay, at 1, there will only be one answer because these are functions that have inverses, and each x goes to a 1y, each y goes to 1x. There's only going to be one guess and check answer here. So once we have that, now that's part 1. And then part 2, we are going to use the formula. I want to find the derivative of f inverse of x with respect to x. I want to evaluate that at x equal to 2. So to find that, I'm going to do the reciprocal of the derivative of f of x, and I'm going to evaluate that at x equal to the corresponding value, 1. So I basically need the derivative of f of x The derivative of f of x is 5x to the fourth plus 1, and we're going to evaluate that at x equal to 1. So that's going to give us 1 over 5 plus 1, or positive 1/6. So the answer is D. Right? But once you get the pattern for this, find your corresponding point, use the formula. These are not really that hard of a problem. However, it's hard to remember the formula 5 months from now when you're taking the AP test. So this is one of those things that you want to put a star by to make sure you have it in your flashcards or wherever your summary sheet is of all these rules that you're supposed to memorize, and then practice and practice and practice until you get this. All right, let's come down here. I'll do number 6. All right, so I know g of 7 is 3. Now, you also realize that if g of 7 is 3, immediately, because this is an inverse, find the slope of an inverse, you should be like, hey, g inverse of 3 equals 7, corresponding point. All right, we know the slope at 3 on g is 5/6. We know the slope of g at 7 is 3/4. They're asking me to find the slope on the inverse at 3. Now, they give you extra information because they're trying to confuse you, so you don't know which one you're supposed to use. So we go, all right, let's make sure we know what we're doing. The slope on the inverse at 3 is the reciprocal of the slope on the original at the corresponding point, which is 7. The inverse of 3 equals 7. And so 1 over g prime of 7, 3/4, which is 4/3. So notice that they're giving you some extra information because they want to check and see whether you know you're using this or whether you're using that you have to understand which one is the corresponding point. All right. Let's flip over to the back. Let's do a numeric example. Let's see, which one do I want to do? Let's do G9 together. All right, so we've got a table, numerical representation. We've got some values for f, the derivative of f, for g, and for g prime. All right, and it gives us that this function h of x is the inverse of f of x. So we're trying to find h prime of 3, which means we're trying to find the slope of the inverse of f at 3. So according to our formula, to find the slope on the inverse at 3, I do the reciprocal of the slope on the original at the corresponding point. So I need to figure out f inverse of 3, what is that equal to? Or you want to think of that as f of x equals 3 for x equal to what value? So I find f, and I figure out where f is equal to 3, and then I figure out the corresponding point, which is 2. And so now I need to find the slope on f at 2. And so that would be, here's my f prime at 2, which is 1. And so my final answer is 1, or E. All right. So that's just a little smattering of these examples, and I'm going to let you finish this and bring it with you to class next time.